what do you do with stereotypical characters, flat characters? And the answer is not much, really. And you know, stereotypical characters are characters that, by their very nature, are not credible. You know, we're looking for, you know, the angry policeman, the drunk policeman, the policeman that's getting divorced. I mean, policemen get drunk, policemen get divorced. Everybody knows that, but if it's a stereotype, it means everybody's writing that. And a good case in point was a client that I had many years ago called Greg Rucker, who had a series of books with with Doubleday rather, called the Atticus Kodiak series. And what appealed to the editor that bought the book, and his first book, I think he was 24 when he wrote it, was the fact that this was not, in this case it was a bodyguard, but it was a PI novel in essence, but he rung the changes. This was not about, you know, a drunk or a divorced guy or somebody at the end of his life. This was a 24-year-old writer writing about a young guy who was sort of at the beginning of his career, and that appealed to her. So it's, again, it's, you know, looking at what do you know, what is meaningful to you, and what is credible, and what hasn't quite been done yet. What's the difference between a protagonist and an antagonist? Well, the the obvious answer is one's a hero, the protagonist, and one's a villain, the antagonist. But some of the more interesting stories tend to have characters who have little bits of both of those in them. You know, you've got the hero that does things that can sometimes be a bit edgy. And you've got the villain who sometimes can be a little bit sympathetic. So that you end up with people who are often doing bad things for good reasons. And as a result, you know, again, it's about what their goals, what are the stakes involved, what do they care about. And depending on what they care about, Elmore Leonard is a great one for coming up with characters that really could be heroes or villains, depending on the circumstances. You know, there but for the grace of God go I. So I would say that in the end, it is about the conflict, and the hero or the villain really is more a structural thing in terms of who is the main character in your story and who are we going to spend more time with, rather than who wears the white hat and who wears the black hat in that regard.